just knocking at my door. Silent screams, unending dread. Movie reel spins in my head. Candles flicker, ghosts arise. Evil whispers, twisted cries. Dead tales of terror spun. Thumping hearts feel the run. 100 scares in my eye. From horrors of days gone by. Garrett and Bill by my side. In this haunted midnight ride.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This has been a long time coming. We told you we're going to do this, and now is the time. UB and myself, Born2BeRad, are back together to this little series about the 100th scary movie moments. But not just any scary movie moments. The scariest movie moments from 2004, according to Bravo. And man, UB, I don't know how you feel, but I'm like, this was such a huge deal for me in 2004, seeing this for the first time, which I can't believe is 20 years ago. And exactly right now, October-ish, 20 years ago, this thing debuted on Bravo. And I absolutely love this thing. Do you remember seeing this thing?
Oh yeah, like this was a huge deal. I don't know why, but like everybody was watching this around that time. I think just because everybody loves lists anyway. And especially like, you know, horror movie lists around that period of time. Like I can remember thinking this was a huge deal too. Like, you know, it had nothing like that had really been done. Not to that degree on television or anything like that. And you got to see all these clips, these movies that you never even like heard of. So
Yeah,
it was amazing.
it's true, man. Like it did, you know, I feel like back then, I always say back in the day, being a horror fan, I don't think is like it is now. Like it was a little bit more felt underground, and all of a sudden now, when Bravo's doing this huge list of 100 scariest movie moments, or you know, I even look at this as scariest movies, like because you know they talk about movies, but they don't necessarily always get into the specifics of exactly what scene they're talking about. Some they do, some they don't, and I think we did a list about a year or two ago talking about Shudder's list, and it was kind of done the same way. You had the talking heads talking about these little things, and it's just kind of interesting to go back in time and see how things were in 2004. Like literally 20 years ago, I can't even believe that. And things did feel different. Like there was a lot more grittiness to 2004. There's a lot of like more different people talking about these movies than we got now. And it's an interesting, you know, list. And we're going to do this series for about 7 weeks, guys. So this is episode 1. We're going to do from 100 to 85 on this list. And then each week it's like a, you know, what is it? Episodic television show? Is that what we're going to say here? Is that you want to come back and talk about this?
Yeah. I mean, I think that'd be a good way to look at it, is just like kind of breaking these down, like into just these segments that are going to be really cool to go over. And it's going to reintroduce me to a lot of these movies that I'd completely forgotten about too. So
yeah, I learned a lot from this list in 2004. Like this was like prime collecting for me. So every movie I didn't know, I wrote it down. I was like, I gotta find that DVD, you know?
It's weird because I still haven't seen some of these movies. Like, I mean, we're talking 20 years now. And like, I still like some of these movies I still, for whatever reason, have not gotten to, which is bizarre because you think you've seen like everything. And then they throw these lists up and it's like, I completely forgot about that movie.
No, 100%. So before we break this down, I do see a lot of people chiming in here. I want to get to them quickly. Say what's up to the chat. We got Dino. What's up, man? Thank you. Alpha's here. What's up, dude? Foz Rotten in the house. Tape Rot video here. Rambo is in the house. He says, remember seeing this back in the day. It's up on YouTube for anybody who wants to rewatch it. Where did you end up checking this out? Did you watch? Did you go to YouTube?
Oh, you mean for this?
Yeah.
Where did I watch it? I think I had to go to YouTube. I don't think any other like thing had it. Yeah, like a really crappy version of YouTube, or crappy looking version of this on YouTube, I should say.
Well, it's funny because I watched it on a burned DVD that I burned in 2004 on like
That's
on
killer.
like a torrent site or something. So it's like I still have it in my collection. So it's burned and it's got like a nice little cover and stuff on it. So yeah, it's been sitting in there. I thought for sure when I popped it in, I'm like, what's the chances this thing works still? Because
It's
it's like
gotta
something
be,
I burned onto a disc like back 20 years
yeah,
ago. But it worked. It worked.
it's gotta be better quality than the shit I watched on YouTube, though. I guarantee it. Even from like 2004, like
Probably actually, because it came straight off the TV back then. Vanderhoff's in the house. What's up, man? Perry Fan, LA Jewel, what's going on? Chris, what's going on, man? He says the Countdown Show has been my annual Halloween watch list every single season. Glad to see y'all covering it. Hell yeah, man. And it's kind of the perfect time because I think from now until Halloween is going to kind of finish this off. So I think Halloween week we'll do the top 10, which will be kind of cool to talk about. A Witch Hunter here. Antonis, what's going on? Did I already say that there? Let me see. Black Peter's in the house, UB's favorite. Justin Smith.
what the fuck every time.
Scariest moment is Slippy announcing Trick or Treat coming up before Halloween, which isn't happening.
wait.
Dude, seriously, like this, is like I don't know about you guys, but this literally is a question every live show I do. Is the Trick or Treat talk? And I will say
is
this:
it seriously still going on? Like, are people still asking
Oh,
about that? Oh yeah, I guess
every
they are.
time, dude. Every time. But I haven't been live. It's actually crazy because I feel like I haven't been live in probably a week or a little bit more, which is shocking. But I did get a little bit of news about this release. I'm not going to disclose it, but I'm not going to say we're shit out of luck for Halloween. But I will say the percentage is a little bit slim. How's that? So just keep your eyes and ears open.
That's pretty good. I mean, yeah. My take on it at this point, man, is that like so many people are just kind of like dogpiling on him about this. Like, I don't want to add anything else to it. Like, I really don't. Like, I feel like it'll be out when it's out at this point. We've done our due diligence, and it's just, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of am on the same boat with you and on board with you as well. Because again, guys, like I get it. Like everybody wants to watch Trick or Treater on Halloween. He promised it. I totally understand that. But I think when it comes down to two things for me, it's like I've got it if I want to watch it that bad. I can wait because I know, the undertaking it must have taken to finally get this thing out. Number one, we should be thanking him because if it wasn't for him, this thing would still be lost for quite a while. And number two, I think when it comes to him, this is his first big, title for his label, and I'm sure he's going to be as similar as Don May is they're not going to release something unless they are 110% happy with it. And if he releases it just to say I'm releasing it now and then realizes, that he could have done a couple more things, it's probably going to kill him for a long time, that he didn't get those last couple things in and he feels that it's not a complete edition or something and then have to re-release it with some different stuff like a couple years down the road. I think he's just doing everything he can and check all the boxes and whatnot. And it goes back to this, no matter how many people are pissed, tell me one person that's going to just say, you know what, I'm not ordering it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I keep thinking about too, is like, everybody going on and on about it. Whenever it comes out, like they're going to buy it. It's just like with Severin, we're bitching constantly about Severin, but we're still buying their shit when it comes out. And they've had a lot more problems than this. This is I don't want to make excuses at this point because I know the guy, but the truth of the matter is, like, this is number one, like his first major release doing anything like this. Number two, there's two people involved in this. Like, it's not like there's a big company or anything like that that's getting any kind of backing like Scream Factory has or something. So I feel like, we got to cut him a break at some point. And like, and another thing too, if it came out and something was wrong with it, people's fucking heads would explode about that too. So it's like,
and he'd feel really shitty too, like even more that he released it knowing it wasn't ready. And I already know that there's a second movie that he's already planning for the second release, and he's not going to make this mistake again. He ain't going to announce that flick, that title until it's like ready, because he's not going to go through this again, so he's not going to prematurely announce it. But I mean, just because he knows the backlash and the problems that can happen. But anyway, let's move on. But I'm just saying, it is one of those things that seriously every show someone brings it up.
I mean, honestly, not that many people bring it up on our show, which is why I thought it was weird, because like, I mean, every now and then you'll have like a comment, they'll just kind of pop in there, but they're not asking about it anymore. So maybe that's just, maybe they've given up. Just like, fuck it, we like, people mention it no more.
But again, everybody's buying it. And I'm excited for it.
I guarantee you everybody is buying it. Yeah.
All right, we got Gruesome Twosome in the house. What's going on? It's party time, says Ryan Lund. Rambo Raff, he likes the shirt. Dude, you can get this at shop.born2BeRad.com. Make DVD rad again. You get this at the shop. We're just trying to get, the ball rolling here on these DVDs. We're in 2004 right now. DVD was where it's at. So let's keep the love going here.
You and Christian are really trying to make DVD like a thing.
Bro, look at Late Night with the Devil DVD. Look at this slip, dude. This is money right here.
That's a Walmart special. I saw that one at Walmart. Yeah.
But here's the thing. Like, I am such a stickler for like certain things. Like, DVD actually does a really good job with the slip covers. Like, no banners and shit telling you like all the shit that's in here. Like, this is a clean looking slip. This little Walmart exclusive here. Yeah. And make DVDs rad again, man. It's a movie like Late Night the Devil. I mean, it's not supposed to look HD, man. This is supposed to feel classic, so I had to get it. Had to get that going. Yeah, man, I agree. 2004, time does fly. Time does fly. Black Peter says I look like the American Badass.
That is the American Badass look, kind of.
Yeah. What's up, man? All right, there's a lot of people coming in. Sorry, I got to skip through everything. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We have 130 people in the house. Thank you guys for being here. Now, we've got about 15 movies to talk about. We're going to talk about them. I'm not going to say super in depth, but I think, just going through our memories of them. And then UB was nice enough to have the list from Shudder that we did. And we can kind of compare and contrast like where things were here in 2004 and where things are now when it comes to, the lists and the people talking about these things. And I will say this, it was refreshing so far to hear everybody talk about these movies and not have to apologize for being fans. That was a little bit refreshing.
It's a whole different kind of vibe in this one. Did you notice that? Like,
oh yeah,
when people are talking about stuff, they're not like trying to skirt around it. They're just like, they just say like whatever it is, which is really interesting to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Eli Roth's head looks like it exploded. Like, I've forgotten that was an actual, like, that his hair was that fucking crazy at one point in time or another, man. Like, it was all over the place. Like, when I did the parody, when we did the Road to Hostel 2 and that parody video and everything, that was pretty accurate. Like, it was meant to be like overdone, but it's pretty accurate to the way he looked.
It's so funny because I don't know if it has to do with like where we live, right? Because Eli Roth is from here, is from Massachusetts, is from up my area. So when I saw him, and this is the thing, like if you want to know what 2004 was like Eli Roth was all over this list. Like he was everywhere. And a lot of people that were in his films were the talking heads on this thing. And when I saw Eli Roth on here, I was saying to myself, holy shit, like he had fucking cool ass hair back then. Like that's my mindset. I'm like, this guy's hair was sick.
Guy's hair was banging, man.
And I saw Eli this weekend, which is kind of funny because his hair is like, he's still got good hair. Like, I mean, it's still, he's older now. He's still got a full head of hair, but it's kind of like more parted, professional looking. But I thought to myself, he needs to go back to this look. That's the look that he needs to rock right now, is that crazy spiked hair. I thought that was cool.
Actually, if I'm being honest, like I don't mind that look on him, probably more so than the look he has right now.
It makes him look a little more edgy, back then, where now I think it's almost like he's him, but he's trying to kind of fit in, like that's what it kind of makes it seem like. He's trying to fit in to be like, a Hollywood director, where back then it's like, no, to me, I thought you were cool because you were kind of a little bit different. You didn't give a shit. You kind of were like, your own dude doing your own thing and not kind of just like, he's just one of the guys. But it is what it is. But he's all over this 2004 list here.
That was definitely his brutal phase, though. He was seriously brutal.
Yeah,
he was way. He was.
Brambo says after Borderlands, I'm surprised he has hair and he left. Figured he pulled it out. All right. Before we start, if you want, I met him this weekend and I had a little chat ski with him. It was kind of actually an interesting interaction because I didn't know at the end of the interaction if it was like I ticked him off or he kind of was in on the joke kind of thing.
Well, if you talked about us, you probably really pissed him off.
Well, thing, and I wasn't
probably
sure,
legitimate.
Right? I don't know. Like I don't want to come off unprofessional, right? Like I don't want that to be the case, and I don't know how he took it. But he was very nice. I will say that he was super nice. And I heard him talking to somebody in front of me in line and said something about the studio effed me, da da da. And I'm assuming it's about Borderlands. I'm only assuming that's what it's about. And he seemed pretty annoyed about the whole thing. Because somebody was talking about something, and that's what he kept saying. They effed me. It's like it's bullshit. Like he seemed mad. Now, I don't know what other movie he could have been talking about. I don't think it was Thanksgiving, but I don't know. I don't know what that was. But I heard him saying something about, feeling slighted by a big studio. That's all. So I walked up to him and I had my Thanksgiving one sheet. And I was just like, hey man, like, I brought this whole one sheet. Like, I don't plan on getting many other people to sign this from the movie. So, feel free to make it as big as you want. And he's like, oh, cool. And he like unrolled it. And then he started doing his autograph, which is an interesting signature because he kind of draws like a picture. Oh, it's like this huge thing. I can't make out what it says, but like, then he's coloring it in and then he starts making it drip blood and he's like putting it on the axe of the carver, like on the poster. Like he's drawing like a whole thing on there. Yeah. Which, to me, I'm kind of like, all right, it is what it is, I guess. I'm glad I'm not getting a lot of people on here, but at the same time, it's different. So as he's kind of doing it, I was talking to him a little bit about, some stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, like, you got to get on the Dead Pit radio show. Like they've been trying to get you on. Right. And he's like writing it down. And I'm like, they've been trying to get you on the show, man, since like 2006. Like it would be so awesome to have you finally go on that show. And he kind of looks up at me as he's doing it. And he's like, yeah, they haven't tried that hard, he said to me. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I said, they've been talking about it forever. I was like, and he's like, yeah, I met those guys a couple months ago. He said,
did he
like,
really say that? Like, I can't believe he would actually.
Swear to God, yeah. I met those guys a couple months ago, he said. And I was like, I know. I said, they took a picture with you and stuff like that. I said, it's like one of their biggest things is to have you on their show. It's almost like you're the white whale that they never got to interview. And he looks at me and he goes, I don't understand why they want me to interview me. They hate my guts, he says to me. That's exact words, dude. His exact words. And I look at him and I'm like, they don't though. He goes, oh, they do. And I said, listen, it's all my words. I'm like talking wrestling to the guy. I'm like, dude, it's a work. It's all a work.
Does he know what work means?
I don't know. So then as I'm saying it, he's looking at me and I'm like it's like part of the bit. It's part of the act. I said, that's the whole thing is that they don't hate you. I said, it's just part of like the act because they couldn't get you on at any point. So it's like, it kind of became like a thing that they've run with. But I said, but the people would just love it. And he's like, well, they're pretty good at their act. He said to me. And I was like, well yeah, they are. So, so then we like go to take a picture and I whip out of my pocket, like the Dead Pit card, like the postcard. And I was like, yo, dude, I was like, can you hold this in this picture? They would die. And he's like, I'm not holding it. So then all of a sudden now I'm thinking to myself, like, oh no, like, is he mad? Like, is he pissed?
He's like, I'm not going to hold that. Would be something stupid to be like pissed.
And I was like, come on. I was like, you won't hold this? He's like, no, I'm not holding that. He's like, you can hold it. And I was like, all right. So like, that's kind of how it ended. And then all of a sudden I said, man, thank you so much. Shook his hand. He's like, no problem, man. Nice meeting you. And then he looks at me and he goes, maybe we'll do something for Thanksgiving too, he said. And I was like, that would be sick. And then I walked away. So again, I don't know where he was like, if he kind of understood that what I was trying to tell him. Cause it seemed like, I think in his head, he thinks he's going to come on and get like, ambushed.
We're going to goof him.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think. He's like, I'm not going to put myself out there to look stupid or to be made fun of or whatever. That's why is that worth my time? That's kind of what I felt. But at the same time, like when I look at it from a big picture of like, I always say like a wrestling standpoint or give me that it's almost like the icing on the cake of like the interview that you never got. You know, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like you push a button for so long that it finally happens, and it's kind of like, yeah, we were poking the bear to make this happen, kind of thing. You know.
So a couple of things go through my mind. Like, number one, like when we were originally doing the show, I think that there was a pretty good amount of just hatred of that guy and his work and like who he was. Very reminiscent of like what John Carpenter talks about when he talks about him and things like that. Even to this day, the way he talks about him, but like, especially back at that point, I don't think it's that way now though. Like, I think we're genuinely, I can speak for myself. I genuinely would want to have him on the show just to like talk about his career, and like, we wouldn't do any fucking like, gotcha kind of thing where we got him on there and we were like making fun of him or anything like that. Like, I'm genuinely like interested in like, because you say what you want about the guy, but number one, he's extremely nice to people that come up to him. Number two, he has an extreme knowledge of horror films and seems to like really enjoy the genre. And number three, he's had a lot of success in it. I mean, I want to talk to the guy just like we would interview anybody else in a situation like that. We've got a history with him that, we'll probably make sure that never, ever happens. But, we've made fun of other people and they would like love to do an interview with us. Uwe Boll, for example, is in our fucking documentary. I mean, we made fun of that guy constantly and it was like a lot worse than Eli Roth. And Rob Zombie, we've had Sherry Moon on. I don't think Rob Zombie does interviews with anybody. So I don't think that that's except for maybe like Fangoria or something like that. But like, yes, that wasn't an option even back then. But I just think that, I think you're right. Like, it would be a good way. It would be closure in some way or another. Like, that's the one thing that like never got done and that I've always wanted to do of the people that are still alive. Now, that being said, what's the reason for him to do it? There is none, unless he has something to promote. Ron's attorneys in here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You know what else is crazy is that Eli Roth is more famous now than he was when you were trying to get him back in the day. So again, like, if he was to ever do it, I mean, that's huge for all parties in the sense of like the show and whatnot, because, all of a sudden you see something pop on YouTube and it says, interview with Eli Roth. I mean, that's a pretty freaking huge deal. Like, he's a very big wig in this genre, like to a point where, like you said, and I'm sure like he said, is like, I don't need to do this. Like,
yeah, I feel like I feel like he kind of has the same kind of attitude as Wes Craven did back when we tried to get Wes Craven. Wes Craven, it was around the time he was getting ready to do Scream 4. And I'm sure he had kind of the attitude of like, why the fuck do I need to do? It's like, I don't need to just talk to whoever. And I'm sure that Roth feels the same way. But that being said, he said we didn't try hard enough. Like, I don't have any other means to try to contact him than like his social media, like, accounts. Right. So I sent him a message right around the time Thanksgiving was getting ready to come out and was like, told him the whole story. And which I'm sure he already knew, which is like, we've been trying to get you for almost 20 years. This would be like the end of like an era, epic kind of thing. Like, there's been all these different times that we've called you and tried to get you to come on the show, and cricket. So I don't know, maybe he doesn't even check that, but like, there's not many ways to get a hold of him other than what you've got with social media sites.
Yeah. And I also think too, to be honest, if he was going to do an interview, and as weird as this is, because I do think deep down, he is still like one of the boys in the sense of like, that guy was horror from day one, and he kind of stayed in his lane. Like, he wasn't like a guy that did horror just because it was something to do to get his name out there. Then he wanted to go on to things. Borderlands obviously was the one that kind of, was a little bit different, but it seemed like being a video game, he was probably a big fan of it. But I think for someone like him, like, if he's going to do an interview, he's going to go on like the Howie Mandel show. Maybe he'll go on like Dead Meat or something like that. But to go on Dead Pit, it's just, it seems like it would make sense. But at the same time, like, a lot of these other people in that realm would be like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to go on these other famous people shows. But I feel like he'd still be a guy that would be like, yeah, let's do this because of the history, because of, hey, these guys, regardless of what their sub count is, have been doing this since 2006 on a regular basis. So, I think that probably still means something to somebody who's so embedded in the genre, is that he would respect the fact that these guys have been pushing the genre for the last 20 years when, you know, someone like myself or anybody else kind of came out more in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, I mean,
So I think
that's the
you respect
only
that part.
that's the only thing I could see that would be intriguing about it is like we are genuinely fans. Like, I mean, all these other shows, they don't know what they just know, you know, that
He's gonna come on my show.
he could. I mean, he
Yeah.
very well could do that. Like,
It's not-
I'm being sincere when I say there's no reason for him to come on our show, like other than the fact to do us a favor. At this point, there's really no reason for him to do it, and I would understand if he didn't do it. But you know, if there's anything that we have going for us, it's that we genuinely are fans of the genre that have been for almost 20 years now. So it's like, you go on Howie Mandel, he don't know nothing. He don't know anything about horror movies or anything like that. You go on like he did the rounds of a lot of podcasts where I was just kind of like, what the fuck does he like have in common with any of these people? Like it's like a lot of comedy podcasts and stuff like that. It was just like, okay, but that's not really going to do anything, So
right.
I'm sure.
I know it's an interesting story, but I think you never know. I would just say when you see, the rumblings of Thanksgiving 2 or something, maybe throw him another message. Because he kind of gave me a little wink wink at the end, like as in like it's not a definite no, but at the same time, who's to say, right? It's just he could have just said that just to say it. But again, I think like we talked about before, and we'll get to this list, is that I see other people talking in the chat about, other celebrities going on different shows. The problem is that you've done this. You've done all this. So it's not like you're chasing all these people down to be like, come on my show. You've already interviewed all these people. He's like one of the only ones that are still kind of hanging around that you never could add to that list of like, the big people to talk to.
Well, yeah. And like you said, it's the history more than it is anything else too. Like, I mean, it's just to kind of like talk about those movies and put that whole like thing to bed finally for good. I mean, that would be the thing that would be amazing about doing that interview. Do I think it'll ever happen? No, but yeah, we've interviewed everybody we want to interview in terms of like people, like classic directors. We've tried everything. The ones we didn't get, it wasn't for lack of trying. I'll say that for certain. So, yeah.
I'm the ultimate booker. Hey, I try, man. I try to promote.
I
try to keep the brand alive. I try to, keep the brand moving forward. It is what it is. Damn. I'm trying to get Scouty on my thing. It's not looking too hot, but I asked her, so we'll see.
I can't figure that one out. Like, I don't want to talk about. I'm not talk about or anything, but like, why not?
I don't know. I'm just a little guy. I'm a little wig. That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean,
we're gonna go down a road that I probably don't want to go down because like, there's several people that I know that are like quote unquote horror celebrities that have like these rules about how many followers you have to have and how many, and this is legitimately like.
Oh, I know they do. And I'm not saying she's one, but I mean, I know she's busy. She's got her own thing. She's directing her first movie now. I mean, she's got a lot going on. I get it. And like we said about Eli, what does it benefit her really coming on here? The only difference is that, I'm genuinely interested in what she's doing. And it's more or less not going to be about how was it playing Laurie Strode. It's going to be about, talk to me about this your first directed film and how this came to be, and then a little bit of her history, in the genre. I mean, that's more or less my angle that I would take anyway. So it would be more or less for her to feel like, okay, I'm directing now, and I'm going to try to just talk about that.
I feel like that benefits her a lot more than Eli Roth, man. Like, I mean, Eli Roth has kind of got like a built-in audience and of people that this is her, like, was this her first directing gig?
This is her first gig, yeah.
So
and it's not like, horror though. It's not horror, I don't think. But I mean, it's still a big deal that she's now going from actress to directing. I mean, that's a big leap, and she's still relatively young. Like, she's a little younger than me. So I mean, it is interesting, and I mean, I've just been a fan for a long time. So I mean, again, is it off the table? No, but at the same time, it's like if I had a table at the event with the podcast of 50,000 subscribers, then, it would be a lot easier for her to come to want to come on the show, So, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm not the type of person that, I don't interviews is not the forte on my channel. Like I don't chase interviews. I don't ask. There's a select few that I'll reach out to and ask that I'm generally interested in, but that's not primarily what I do here. And that's why you don't see a lot. And when you do, it's because I generally want to know about something or talk to that person and individually and maybe talk to them about things that not 1,000 other people have talked to them in their life about. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, but guys, we appreciate all your support. There's still, you know, 160 people in here letting us jabber about the non-topic of this show. I'm sure we'll get some comments be like, it's 30 minutes in and you haven't even talked about the first movie yet.
I mean, honestly, though, that's incredibly interesting to me that you had that interaction. It's interesting for a number of reasons. Number one, that he knew who we were. Number two, that he knew when we met him. And number three, that he knew enough to know that like he should be pissed off. Those things are all like interesting to me. He's like,
he's definitely he definitely knows the stories. I mean, he definitely, because for him to be like, they hate my guts. I mean, he knows something, right? Like he's heard. How does he know? How would he put that in his head? And obviously, with that mindset, is why he probably hasn't returned an email in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I'm positive that like that's why. Yeah. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you can't come out and be like, you know, hey, they haven't tried hard enough. It's like, yeah, dude, we actually have. Like, we've done everything we possibly can, like within our power. We've got your phone number.
But but then you think about it from a different angle, and I'm like, is the try hard enough? Like, actually say you don't hate his movies, right? Like, is that the try hard enough? Like, you know, who knows? Maybe in his head, it's like, you know, they haven't said anything good about me. So how hard do they, you know, are they trying? You know, who know? I don't know what that means, but I mean, you did say that you like Thanksgiving, so that's a good one.
True. Hold on 1 minute, man. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Oh, don't go strangle that pup. All right, UB went to go take care of some business over there. But guys, again, thank you for being in here. I figured it was a story that we should tell now. I haven't had a chance to really tell it yet, and we are covering 2004, which was like, Eli Roth was like killing it in this time frame. Like he's all over this show, this 100 movie moments, this list. Like he's everywhere. So Rambo says Eli Roth is at his door. The dog is warning him. What? Oh, Vanderhoff. I was talking about Scout Taylor Compton. She was another one I talked to for a bit. I'm gonna post a little thing on my IG about it. I had my Scout Taylor Compton shirt on one day and she loved it. So that was kind of my icebreaker to have the conversation with her. Knock knock rules, man. What would you guys say? When I actually love Eli Roth. I know a lot of people don't, but remember when you guys did the ranking and you had to make Garrett tier because I kept getting mad that they weren't putting everything in the top tier. Knock knock is bomb. Love it. What other ones? Like, obviously, you know, Hostel's another one that when that came out, I don't know if it was my age, but I really liked it. You know, it was kind of like it took Saw to the next level. And at the time, those were movies that horror fans really dug. I have not watched Hostel in many years. When I met him, I said to myself, you know what? I want to go back and watch Hostel again. It's been a long time. I don't know if it's the type of movie I'm going to really vibe with now. But what's interesting is when we talk about this list and we see like Eli Roth on this list, when did Hostel come out? Does anybody know off the top of their head? When did Hostel come out? Because would that be on this list? And if it is, it's probably going to be way at the top 20, I bet. So hold on, let me check and see Hostels. Was it 2004? Oh, it was 2005, so it wasn't even around for this list. So yeah, thank you, Chris. It wasn't even around for this list. Thank you, guys. So it won't be up there, but I could see if they did this list in like 2006, that Hostel would have been like in one of their top spots. But it's really interesting to kind of see the movies that are here that didn't even make the Shudder list, which is very, very interesting. I will say, I forgot about that. I do not. That's the one I will say I don't like. I never saw Borderlands, and I probably won't ever see it. That just doesn't seem like a type of movie that I would vibe with at all. I did not like Green Inferno, but I love Cabin Fever. I love Cabin Fever. I like Thanksgiving. I love Knock Knock. Um, what else did he? Was he Sacrament or was that Ty West and him? I love Sacrament. I know he was involved somewhere. Um, The Last Exorcism, was that him or was he just did he just produce it? I like that one. Um, Thanks, Willie. Appreciate that. Um, Hell yeah, man. I was just telling them that I have a burned DVD. That's where I watched it, and it still works, surprisingly. Pancakes. Pancakes. Was it Ty West? Yeah, okay, Ty West, but was Eli Roth involved with it too? Oh, there was a part 2 they did? I forgot about that. Oh, we gotta make sure we hit that up too. I will say this, I never saw a wall of the house clocks or whatever like that. It would be pretty big. I knew Ty West directed it, but I didn't know if Eli Roth was involved as well. Okay, yeah. But was it? Why do I feel like Sacrament was Ty West and had something to do with it? And I mean, Ty West did direct it, but didn't Eli Roth have? He was the producer.
Eli Roth was the producer. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Okay, all right.
Anyway, sorry about that. I had to go. Like somebody was breaking into the house. It was fun.
Everybody said they thought it was Eli Roth.
It'd be so cute. He's out there with his spiked hair, like standing in the window.
He's got like, what was the dog's name? Dr. Mambo or something, like barking, like trying to get in. All right. Let me see what we got here. Okay, let's start this sucker here. We are at number 100 of the scariest movies or movie moments in 2004. And they brought up 28 Days Later, which I can understand this being on the list in 2004. I don't remember if this was even on Shudder's list. It could have been. I don't know. What do you think of this? I find myself, to be honest, this one doesn't. When this came out, I was like, this is so badass. It doesn't really do much for me anymore. I don't know what your opinion is on it. It was a little bit different at the time, but I feel like the last time I watched it, I was kind of like, it wasn't as good as I remember it being.
So it is number 40 on Shudder's list.
Oh, wow, what a jump, dude!
It's way up there as compared to that. Yeah. I really like this movie. I don't like the ending of it. Something about the ending of the movie where it just kind of falls apart to me. I think because like the whole movie takes place up to the ending in like this huge space, this open kind of world where like, they're roaming around. It's kind of an adventure movie. And then the ending of the movie is like they're in these closed quarters with all this, these military guys, and it just kind of falls apart to me at the end. But like, I like 28 Weeks Later quite a bit more for some reason. I've never really like understood why, but I think the opening scene of 28 Weeks Later is amazing, and like it's got a lot of good stuff going for it. That being said, like, yeah, it's kind of a classic now.
Mm-hmm. It is considered a classic now. And they're still promoting the next one, part 3, I guess. They're still trying to say that's coming. I assume it's still coming out. It's one that people have wanted for so long. But yeah, it made the top 100, which it makes sense to me at this time. But I really don't remember, like, 28 weeks and 28 days to me at this point in time really kind of, I have trouble remembering which one is which. I don't remember which one I like better, but I do remember when I watched this one for the last time, which was a couple of years ago, I was kind of like, eh. And I don't know if it had to do with like, that they really did that like drowned out coloring back in the 2000s on everything. And we thought it was very cool and innovative. I feel like now that almost takes me out of it a little bit. Like, I don't think that looks good anymore. I actually think that looks shitty.
You must hate every Lionsgate movie that came out in the 2000s.
It was weird because back then I was like, that was the horror look. And I was kind of like, oh, this looks so cool, And now I watch it, I'm kind of like, it just takes away for me. It almost feels very low budget, even lower than like, 28 Days Later could be. But I don't know. It might be something I have to revisit again. It's been, a little while since I've seen it, but I just remember the last time I watched it, I was kind of like, I thought this was better.
Yeah, I mean, 28 days is a lot. a lot different. Cillian Murphy wakes up, and it's kind of like The Walking Dead ripped off the entire first part of that, to be honest. Uh, he wakes up from like a coma, and there's already been like a zombie apocalypse. He doesn't know about it. He goes outside. He like finds all these bands of survivors. To whereas 28 weeks later is like past all that, and the guys, he has the kids with him. One of them, I think maybe his wife is a carrier. It's that old story where she can carry it, but she doesn't fully turn into a zombie. And so like her blood kind of holds the cure or whatever, I guess, to what's going on.
Now, a lot of people say it's changed the genre. Now, are we talking mainly about the running aspect? Because what was the movie back in the day that did the run? It was before this.
Return of the Living Dead did the run.
There was another one too. I'm trying to think. It's an Anchor Nightmare City, I think.
Nightmare City, that was an infected people movie but I mean, yeah, you could definitely like look at it as like the first movie that did the running zombie gimmick.
And then that started becoming the trend, like even the remake of Dawn and all this other shit too. What's up, dude? It's funny you say that. That's exactly how I watched it. It was on a DVD RW that I recorded. Same way. I still have it. I made like a nice case for it. And when I popped it in, I thought for sure, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And sure enough, it did. So yeah, I think everybody was torrenting that thing back in the day when it came out. But yeah, that was number 100 on the 100 scariest movie moments in 2004. And we actually looked at the Shudder list. Now, I know that was 101. What were the 101 and 100 back in this list that came out last year?
101 was It Follows. I always thought that was a travesty. I thought that movie should have been a lot higher. Number 100 was The Orphanage in Shudder's list, which I'm fine with that being 100. I don't like any of those movies.
I'm not a big fan of Orphanage either, but I can see if you're into that stuff that could be something that people would be happy to see somewhere on that list. But to me, when it came out, I have no real connection to The Orphanage, so it really didn't really matter to me. But 99 here was interesting because I don't know if this made the list. It could have from Shudder, but the 99 spot in this Bravo list was Creepshow. Creepshow made 99. Creepshow is one of those movies to me. I freaking love it. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Do I think it's necessarily scary? No. Do I think it deserves to be on this list? I don't know. Maybe, but they talk mostly about the bug segment with all the roaches and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it made the Shudder list. What do you think about this one being on here?
It's funny because I can't find it on the Shudder list, but I can tell you one of the weird things about this list to me is that like these aren't really movie moments. These are the movies. Like they don't really specify one moment in these movies or anything like that. They're just talking about the movies themselves. But in this one, they kind of do. They single out just talking about like the roach, scene. And a lot of the other ones, they just talk about the entire movie, which I thought was unusual. It should be way higher to me. Like to me, Creepshow is the ultimate anthology film. It should be like way, way higher than that. If you're gonna do, and
it's
if you're
weird
gonna do
because like it's strange because if it said the 100 best horror movies of all time, I would say Creepshow needs to be way up there. But the fact that they specified the scariest movies, that's why I was kind of like, well, does it? But again, we haven't seen the rest of this list yet to know where this should be. But
I don't, that
recognized, of course.
That wouldn't have been what I would have picked either. As the moment for that film. The moment for that film is the Father's Day moment when he comes out with the cake. To me, like that's the moment I would have gone with for that.
I kind of agree, and I think if Creepshow 2 ends up on this list, it would be Raft for me. I think with Creepshow as a kid, seeing that for the first time, you're right. The Father's Day segment really was the one that hit me hard because it was the first segment. So you really weren't sure where they were going with this whole movie at that point. So all of a sudden when he came out and you saw the where's my cake and all that stuff, like it was pretty shocking as a kid because again, you weren't really sure where this movie was going and what they were doing. And then after that, all the different segments, you kind of had a better idea of like what this movie was about. Yeah, it definitely stood out for me as well. What was 99 on Shudder's list over there?
99 was Salem's Lot. The original, thank God.
Holy, see, for me, Salem's Lot would
Mhm.
be like way the hell up high. Like for scary, for horror, like whatever. To me, Salem's Lot deserves to be, I would even say top 20 for me.
I would definitely put it higher than that. Like, you got shit like The Orphanage, it's right behind it. It's like, no, and then, like, some of these movies that come after it that are considered better, yeah, I think you'll probably find that's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that Salem's Lot was that high on this list because I have a feeling that that's going to be on this list, but like down the road, I think
Yeah.
we're going to see it, a lot higher back then. Because again, like things like It Follows and stuff didn't exist. Orphanage didn't exist like when this list came out, and you kind of see that because you are seeing a lot of movies that pop up in here that did not make the Shutter list because they had to start, putting more modern stuff in there. But yeah, it's interesting. And, this is another one at 88. I mean, at 98 that I still feel like is a little high. And that Zombie comes in at 98. And they kind of talk about the shark fighting the zombie. Well, they talk about that, and they also talk about the eye scene. So, I mean, they kind of talk about a couple different things on this one, but those are the two that I think really stand out is the shark fighting the zombie and the eyeball scene.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But they're really talking about the whole movie, but they single out like those two scenes.
Hmm.
And those are by, the two most memorable scenes in the movie. I think Captain Haggerty is probably another, pretty big scene in that too. But that's an interesting pick at that level too. See, there's so many horror films, it's hard to say where I would put that one. That's not even my favorite Fulci movie, so I'm okay with that being in that spot. Like, there's other Fulci movies I'd probably put up higher on that list. That's the most popular by far and the most, accessible by far. So I get that.
Yeah. Now, what popped in at 98 for the Shutter list when we talked about
Dracula.
that?
Dracula. And this was the 1958 Dracula with Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing.
Mhm.
Don't you think that's a little bit nuts though? Like, I mean,
Like when you like how iconic of a movie that was, and like
yeah, I mean,
that's
that's
98. Yeah.
that version of that movie is arguably the best version of the movie. And
Mhm.
kind of influenced like everything with the Cushing and Christopher Lee dynamic and everything too. Like, seems a bit low to me.
Yeah. It almost seemed like too when we were talking about that, when you watch the Shutter list, it's almost like they put it in there like as a favor. Like, well, we better have this in here because people are gonna talk shit about us if we don't have something in here like this.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, there's so many good horror films that it's hard to make a list like this anyway.
Hmm. Well, 97 is interesting because on this list, because I do feel like this one did fall very close on both of the lists, I think. And this is Cat People. It's the old one. It's not the redone one with McDowell
Yeah.
or anything like that. But
What was it on this one now?
97.
It's 93 on Shutter's list. That's pretty close.
It moved up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's moving up the rankings for scary movies.
Yeah.
But again, it's a classic and it deserves to be talked about. I personally watched the other one more than I've watched this one.
Same.
And again, it's not that it's better or anything like that. I think it just had to do with, which I saw the one McDowell first and then realized it was a remake and then went backwards. But I mean, I guess it's cool that it's included in here because I know for a lot of people this definitely is one that probably should be on the list. So again, 97. What was 97 for Bravo? Unless there's more you want to talk about with this Cat People.
I don't know a lot about Cat People, man. I think I've seen that movie one time, and it obviously didn't. I've never been a Val Lewton mark. I just never got into his films for whatever reason. But that was Black Sabbath, not the band, but the Mario Bava movie.
I wonder if I think we'll see that again here, but I think
so too.
You would think, yeah, you think so, which is a great one. And 96 on the Bravo list to me felt like it was a little high. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I'm assuming this. I'm almost positive this was on Shudder's list too, and that's The Birds. Hitchcock, The Birds. I've always been a huge Birds fan. Like The Birds for me is honestly a gateway movie that I got really into the genre as at a young age. It was one of those movies that um, I was allowed to watch that was still considered horror because my parents were a little bit more strict, but my mother was about specific movies. I could watch anything on TV because she assumed all the shit she didn't want me to see was cut. So that's where I watched a lot of horror movies for the first time was on like cable. But The Birds she loved. And we went to Universal Studios when I was a little kid, and they had that Alfred Hitchcock experience with I think we've talked about this before with the 3D. And like those birds, amazing. Literally, I don't care what anybody says. That was probably the craziest 3D I've ever seen in my life. Like there was one here. There was one here. Like I've never seen anything like that ever in my life again. And I remember when I went to that, I was so infatuated with the whole idea of it. And then they did this like psycho scene where like they reenacted the scene and stuff. And I became a really big Hitchcock fan as a young kid, maybe around like 10. And so I started watching some of his stuff. My mother was into it too. So she was like, okay with it. But for me, The Birds is just so special to me. And I'm glad to see it on the list. I just think it deserves to be a little bit higher.
Here's the thing, like just to talk about that Universal experience, I understand why they got rid of it because people today they don't care about stuff like that. But that was an insanely good kind of event that happened when they did that because they were taking you behind the scenes basically and showing you how that they shot like a lot of those films. And for somebody that's into stuff like that, that's awesome. You never really got a chance to see anything like that. But also,
I take it you went too.
Oh yeah. I saw the whole Psycho reenactment thing and how they did the shower scene, the birds thing. You're right. The 3D in that was amazing. I still think it's like some of the best 3D I've ever seen. And there was a couple other things they did too, but I can't remember them because I probably wasn't into the movies. They might have done other like Rear Window or something like that,
right.
but I can't remember exactly like what it was. Vertigo. Okay, so yeah, they showed you how they did Vertigo, like certain scenes in that too. But that was
and Rear Window.
I just love that. Yeah.
Honestly, it wasn't even like a ride, but when we left that day, I remember saying like that the Alfred Hitchcock thing was one of my favorite things in the whole park. And it wasn't even a ride. It was just, you went in, you sat down to the theater. And the unfortunate thing was that 3D ruined 3D for me forever because I never found anything that replicated how that felt and how that looked. And, during the era of 3D coming out, like Bloody Valentine 3D and all these movies that were getting put out in 3D, I went to the movie theater thinking I was going to get a similar experience, and it never touched it. They came out 3D TVs. I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to look crazy. Never could replicate what I remember seeing in that theater that day as a 10-year-old kid. So it is just very wild that you kind of have a similar experience, in
I remember it.
But I just don't think it was like my little kid brain overthinking what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, but in terms of the movie The Birds, like I've always thought that it was great. It has a couple of really legitimately frightening scenes in it too. Still to this day, I think the thing that people remember most about The Birds though is the camera work. It was kind of groundbreaking the way that he had the overhead view, the birds,
bird's eye view,
eye view. Yeah. And he always had a gimmick in movies too. And I think that was kind of like the gimmick was that you got the bird's eye view of the town and all that. Great film.
Yeah, very cool. What was Shudder's 96? The old 96.
Shudder's 96 was Pulse. Which
okay, so I'm assuming that's the Asian one.
It was. It shouldn't even be on the list.
It's not the remake.
No.
On the list. Remember, I think that was what we were saying about Shudder. Like it was almost like they tried to like. I think we even said this doing the show, and if you guys haven't seen that, we did the whole Shudder series. You got to go back and watch it if you like this talk. And we go through their list, so it's gonna be kind of cool to compare and contrast what we say. But I'd almost felt like that list, it's like every 10 they had to fill in like the boxes, like, oh, we need like one Asian movie. And
I swear to God, that's
like
it
was really strange. It was like it was too like, thought out, right? Like
it's very pandering. Like that to me, that list is very like every now and then we're just gonna sneak in like one of these movies that because it felt like we have to. Like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like those movies maybe have like been as deserving as some of the ones that were left out.
I think 100% that's how it felt. Now, did they do that? I can't confirm that, but it felt that way because it's almost like there was a formula to every 10 movies. It was like you kind of had to have one in here about this. Like, it was interesting.
I mean, they did apologize profusely about Last House on the Left. That's where that whole thing came from. But it's like you kind of get the impression that was more of a woke kind of list, because they're like, I hate talking about this movie now, but back then it was, it was really influential. But God, like, it's awful now, and I don't really like it that much. So
yeah, and this 2004 list, they're like, yeah, fuck that. That was a killer. Like, like,
that's exactly the way it is.
Yeah. And some of the people that were talking in this, like, obviously it was a lot of Eli Roth. And then it had like the dude from like that was in Cabin Fever, that was in Boy Meets World, was on this a lot as like a talking head.
Yeah. What was that?
Ryder Strong.
Ryder Strong. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a lot into this. I don't remember. I remember that dude that was always in the documentaries that nobody knew where he came from. Was his name like Cats or something? Like
the one that Wes used to
like I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen him yet, but I think for some reason I feel like he's got to be on this somewhere.
He'll be in it. Yeah, he was in.
He was always on like the Jason documentaries, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like nobody knew who he was. He was just kind of like hanging around.
100% that guy will be in this. Yep.
But what other people were on here that was interesting? They had for some reason they had the dudes from Club Dread were like,
that's the one that got me, and I made a note of that in this list because they show up, and I'm like, from the Broken Lizard, Club Dread kind of thing, those guys that made like Super Troopers, and I'm just like, what in the fuck are these guys like doing there? And you could tell that they really didn't know what they're talking about. Didn't Rob, the Uptight Citizens Brigade, Rob Riggle was a part of it. That was like before the Daily Show and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that he got on the Daily Show. He was on there, and I'm like, what the hell do these guys even know about horror films? That's like a comedy troupe.
Who was the female? There was somebody on that I was like, I think she's pretty famous now. Who would have been? I forget, but there was somebody on there. But was it Jeff? Was the guy's name Jeff? I think it was. That was the guy.
I think it might have been Jeff Katz. Yeah,
I think that's his name. I don't know who he was.
If CK's still on here, he'll know because he hated that guy with a passion.
I just didn't know. I just remember him. He was like always there, and I'm like, does he write for a magazine or something? Like, I didn't know what his role was, but he was always on those things back in the day. And where is he? Where is he now? That's the interview right there. We're gonna get him on.
Be like, how'd you do that? How'd you get in all that shit back in the day? We need to know.
Yeah, like, where did you come from?
We're trying to increase our media presence, and you apparently know. So
he was like all in the algorithm and stuff.
Yeah.
CK's melatonin already kicked in. They said he's the day off tonight. Yeah, he took the day off. But what was number 96 on the Shudder list? Did we say that already?
Yeah, Pulse was 96.
All right, so this is interesting to me, and I'm not saying it's wrong by any means, but it was interesting of a choice that they chose at 95 because I really don't think Shudder touched this at all. And number 95 on this list was Jurassic Park, which, again, I'm not saying that that's a wrong pick, but it's an interesting pick because I feel in my head that it does deserve to be on a list like this, kind of, but it would never be talked about now when they're talking about scariest movie moments. I just don't know if they just didn't. It was just such a huge success that they felt like they needed to add this in here. But it was an interesting choice because I kind of get it, but it all depends on the criteria of these lists, right? So
that's the thing. We never can figure out the criteria of these lists. Like, it's always so subjective, and who knows why they picked it. But to me, Jurassic Park is not a horror film. But that being said, if we're going by movie moments, like scariest movie moments, I will give them that the T-Rex scene, with the water, and the raptor scene towards the end of the film. When you're a kid, yeah, that's right up there with some of the scariest moments in like mainstream kind of films like that.
Sure.
I don't know if that's I don't know. I don't think Jurassic Park's a horror film though.
What would it be? Action? Like, what would it be? You're not saying it is
like horror. Adventure, drama, something, but not horror.
Right? Yeah. But it was. I was kind of shocked when I heard this because the way that they talked about it too, that they made it really, they really pimped it out as a horror movie, like in this, like the way they're talking about it and stuff too.
Yeah,
and it was. Interesting
you're right. They really did kind of push this movie. They hyped it up a lot. And it's weird because that's what was that? That was already 12, 13 years after that movie had come out. So it wasn't like it was a new
Well, no, it
experience.
would have been 10 years,
10
12 years,
years.
11
Okay.
years, 11 years, yeah. Yeah. But it was just it definitely felt weird when they brought this up. I was like, wow, like that was kind of a weird choice because there's no way in hell that movie ever lands on a list like this now. Um, which
No.
is interesting. But yeah, that's 95 was Jurassic Park. And what was 95 on Shutter? I mean, it's hard. I don't know.
90. Oh, shit. It would be too. The Strangers was
Okay.
95.
It has the one scene, man. I will still say I always found that scene pretty freaking effective, and I think I say that on our show.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this. Channel said Channel Wackadoo said Jurassic Park was actually on the cover of Fangoria once. I didn't know that, which is even more interesting.
I don't think it's horror film. Sci-fi. Somebody says sci-fi action horror. I think it's sci-fi action. That might be. It is science fiction. I mean, you could legitimately call it that because, like, that's what it deals with, is bringing back dinosaurs. So yeah, but going on to The Strangers and the idea of that being on a list, like, I agree
No,
that scene. I hate that movie. I think it's completely overhyped, but like that scene is memorable. Unfortunately, they completely like redid that entire scene in the new Strangers movie, and I was like, why?
did
Why the
they? I didn't
fuck?
see. I haven't seen it.
They changed the line, but it's the exact same, and it's basically a remake of that movie. But like, I'm like, why would you go to all this trouble to remake this fucking movie, Rennie Harlan? And then like you change the one line of dialogue that everybody knows from that movie.
What now? Did they do like what I found effective from it that I don't feel a lot of movies ever do, and I don't know why, is that it was in silence. There was no music, there was no jump scare. You're just watching this girl in the kitchen doing her thing, and all of a sudden, if you don't look in the background, you could even miss it. That dude's kind of in the dark, just standing there. You're thinking to myself, what is he going to do? Now, did they do the same style, or were they adding like some music to the back and like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I don't think it works unless you do the silence.
It's the same, yeah, it's the same type of movie. Like I
Okay.
think they were purposefully like, you know, reintroducing that movie into today's culture because they wanted to make two more of them. So it's one of those where it's like Halloween, the Halloween 2018. We're like, okay, like here's all these characters, and like if you've forgotten like what this movie is, here it is. This is what it
Mhm.
was, except they made it shittier. It really is like, I mean, it's just a retread with like lamer dialogue and characters. But the whole purpose of it was just to reintroduce it to the audience so that they could make a couple more of them.
Going back to Eli Roth, it would be an interesting thing to ask him, which I didn't have a chance to. But like, what was his thoughts, and was he involved when they remade Cabin Fever, like just randomly and for no reason? Like, was he part of that? Did he like that? Like, was he kind of like, why? You know what I mean? Like, it was a very strange thing that happened. Was like, it's basically like a shot for shot remake with new people. It was a very odd thing, and it's one of those remakes that nobody ever talks about. It just completely forgotten about,
No.
and
And I
it
think
made
that's
no
what
sense
they
to me.
do. Essentially, I just think that's what those movies are there for. They're just kind of like to kind of remind people what the original movie was about, but update it so they could make a bunch of sequels. And it never seems to work, but they keep doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think what did you say? There was supposed to be somebody asked there's supposed to be two more this year. I don't know about the strangers. I mean, I think that this was just part one of like more chapters. I don't know when they're slated to come out. Um yeah, it's true. It didn't feel it felt like a fan made movie, the new Cabin Fever. I really didn't understand. It didn't have the same kind of like campiness or humor that the first one did. Like they tried to almost play it a little more straight and it didn't really work. Um but 94 is another one where I was kind of happy to see this on the list because again, this is another movie that I don't think would ever make a list like this now, but I think it's a really cool movie.
Yeah.
And that's Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton.
This was the one of this whole list where I was like, what? Like, I didn't see that coming at all. Like, that was a complete surprise because that's just not a movie you think about now. Maybe people were thinking about it then, but I can't remember the last time anybody referenced Pacific Heights, even though it is like a really effective like thriller. And during that time period, man, they were making a lot of movies like that. There was a whole subgenre of movies where, like, you know, somebody befriends a couple, but they turn out to be like a psychopath and like end up trying to ruin their relationship or move in on somebody, or like that was a whole like kind of subgenre of movies around the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s were really big, and I actually did a show on this with my my rad dudes counterpart over there. And if you guys want to check it out, we get into a lot of these, especially even things like Pacific Heights. And it was like the thriller. The thriller was a genre of movies that came out in the 90s with like that you just don't get anymore, that are kind of crossed, like they kind of teeter the line of like horror and esque, and that's things like Pacific Heights. That's things like Single White Female, which for some reason I feel like is on this list somewhere. Is we're gonna see that movie pop up.
What was the one with Ray Liotta?
Yeah, the Unlawful Entry.
Unlawful Entry, yeah.
Yeah, like that, and even things like what's the other one there with Sharon Stone?
Domestic Disturbance with Vince
like
Vaughn.
all those movies, like they kind of had that edge of like they could have been, you know, they could be horror adjacent, and you know we talk a lot about that. But to see these on the list, and I do feel that we're going to see some more of these, like Hand That Rocks the Cradle, that might be on this list somewhere. You know,
I guarantee it is, yeah.
Which they do have some freaky, scary, disturbing elements in those movies, but they're really not noticed as horror movies. Like I don't think those Pacific Heights wouldn't have been in the horror section if you went to the video store back in the day.
No.
So it's just really interesting, you know, that you know where these are. It's the scariest movie moments. It's not horror, right? Like they were smart on how they worded this, but I thought it was cool to see this here because it is a pretty damn cool movie that I feel like not enough people know about. And to be honest, I think I found out about that movie through this list back in 2004.
Pacific Heights?
Yeah, I think so.
That was one that I saw on either HBO or Cinemax back in the day because they just showed like all kinds of movies like that around that time period. Pretty much all those movies we just talked about, like I saw on cable, and you just watched whatever came. I know for a fact I saw Single White Female on cable, and I know for a fact that I saw this one too. And those are just kind of movies you grew up with. And it's interesting though, because like, they don't make movies like that at all now. Like I couldn't even tell you like when a movie like that was made, except that, well, I take that back. That, what's the name of that movie? The Mama movie or whatever looked like it was similar to that, where the mom kind of befriends like all those teenagers, and then it turns out she's like psycho. I didn't see it, but it looked.
Was it recent?
Yeah, like within the last 2 years.
The
hell was the name of that movie? Wasn't it Mama or something like that? Or
no, I just remember Mama. I actually liked Mama. I thought Mama was good. Not Ma, not that one. I don't know.
Ma.
Maybe
it's Ma. Okay, yeah.
Was that what it was? Ma.
Hey, Ma.
Simple Plan is on this list. Chrissy said, That's crazy. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And this is funny that Slasher Fred brought this up. Cold Creek Manor is in my collection. It's one of those movies that it was at like every yard sale you went to, whatever, or like dump bin at Walmart for like, or Dollar Tree. Cold Creek Manor was just like boatloads of that movie. Of course, I have that in my collection here. Domestic Disturbance. I don't think I have that. I don't believe.
That
John
movie
Travolta.
is insanely shitty but great at the same time. It's just like a product of its time. It really is kind of like, it's good in the same way that Face Off is good. It's just a product of that era. 94
makes a good point.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He said the 90s, the problem is that people were afraid to call films horror, so they always tried to like turn it into thrillers because you know they felt that it would hurt the movie if they said it was a horror movie. And I'm sure there's a lot of movies like that. You know, I remember the whole debacle with Silence of the Lambs and whatnot, and Where It Belongs, and Mama. I remember obsessed with Beyonce. I remember that one. Yeah. It's Ma, yeah.
So 94 on Shudder's list though was The Wolfman.
All right. They just did it a favor.
Man, those movies. I'm sorry, but The Wolfman is not a great movie. It's just
Like,
not.
oh, where are we gonna put Creature? Oh, it's gonna be over here. Okay, we gotta get that. That's good. That's gonna be like every 10 movies they have to add like a universal monster in there. It's like they have to
That
have the boxes.
that is true. They're really like, we got to go into the Universal shit and figure out where to put that. But somebody mentioned Jack Nicholson's The Wolf. Nobody ever references that movie. We were talking about that the
Mhm.
other day, and it's like that is such an odd movie, man. That's like Jack Nicholson as a fucking wolf. James Spader is the antagonist wolf. It's like, who thought somebody was on a binge of
It was,
something
I
and they
think it was
came
a
up with that.
cash-in movie because it was like it was coming right off of Batman. So you had Pfeiffer and Nicholson in the movie together. So I remember as a kid, I was like, I gotta see Wolf because I kind of like horror movies at the time, and these two people just came off of the Batman franchise. So of course I was like hyped up to see this thing.
Hilarious though, man. Like you imagine like him like, what's your next film? Oh, I'll fucking wolf. Jack Nicholson, really? Michelle Pfeiffer's the love interest. It makes zero sense that movie happened, but it did.
You're not a big Wolf guy.
I
You gonna
think
get the
back,
4K Wolf? 4K?
yeah, I'm gonna get it. I think back about that movie, and I'm just one of those movies. It's like, how does this exist? Like, I don't know. I kind of like to go back and watch it just to laugh at it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's again. I think it was a cash in on just the actors that they got in the movie because of the hype of Batman. And to be honest, I watched this again the other day. It's a great movie, Witches of Eastwick.
Yeah, I love that
Um,
movie.
that's a fun movie for anybody who hasn't seen that one. Is that got Pfeiffer in it too? No, is she? Yeah,
Yeah, she's in it.
yeah,
I
she's
think
in that.
she's one of those. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
it's what
all right, we're moving
It's
in.
Sarandon, Cher, and her.
Brandon Cher. Yeah, you know what's funny is I never found Cher really attractive ever. But for some reason, when I watched that not too long ago, I was like, she was pretty good looking here. In that movie, Witches of Eastwick. But it's a cool movie. It's weird because like it seems like a movie a lot of people would pass on, but I think it's actually a really effective kind of movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's something about it. It's a great mixture of like dark humor and horror elements and stuff. And Nicholson's amazing in it.
Oh yeah, he's so good. I know this one was on Shudder's list, and I think it was pretty high on the like. Not like it was around here. I think on Shudder's list as well. And I still think it's a little bit too low on the list, and that's Child's Play at 93. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like that would be way higher on these lists. What do you think about Child's Play being in the 90s?
I'm
I think it fell here to Shudder.
Look, I'm biased for Child's Play right now because I am sick to death of Child's Play. They've Child's Played me the fuck out. Like
That's because of the damn show, bro. I told
between
you
the
the shows
TV
are killing these
show
movies.
and the Spirit of Halloween stuff and the like, I don't want to hear anything else about Child's Play. That being said, though, you're right. Like it was 90 on Shudder's list, so it's still relatively low. But should it be higher? Like, kind of, because that's like an iconic character, right? Like there's only a handful really of like really iconic characters that everybody knows. Like you could put a Chucky doll in front of everybody and they're going to know what the fuck that is. Like just about
Mm.
anybody is going to know that. So I kind of feel like maybe it is. I mean, nobody's going to know what the fuck Pacific Heights is. Like if you were like, if you just go out and like, remember that movie with Michael Keaton where he was a psycho like tenant and they're going to be like,
So, you mean you're not going to
no.
walk into Spirit and see like a Michael Keaton Pacific Heights figure or something sitting there? Would you buy it? Would you buy a Michael
I would-
Keaton Pacific Heights figure? if
I would
Nectar did one?
100%. Dude, I'd buy that before I'd buy any Chucky figure. If they had a Michael Keaton psycho like Pacific Heights figure, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
What's his
Yeah.
name? Was it Carter something or something? What was his
Yeah,
name?
it was. He had a really cool name in it. Like, God, hold on, I got to figure that out because
Was it like a fake name too? He had kind of. It was like
yeah, they find out that like he had like
Carter
a whole-
Hayes. Yeah,
Carter
Carter Hayes
Hayes.
and Rambo. So yeah, I think we definitely need a NECA Carter Hayes figure. I think that's kind of, especially with Beetlejuice hype right now, they can slide
Yep.
one in there. People would be excited. You know, that's true. Chucky even cut a promo with Rick Steiner. I mean, he's an icon, man. You know. And that was number 93, Child's Play. And where was Shudder at 93?
Cat People. Yep.
Okay, that's right. All right, Shudder. So Cat People and Child's Play moved up the rankings from 2004 to 2022, whenever that list came out. Now, this one, you know, it made, I think it made Shudder's list too. 92 was Village of the Damned. Iconic movie. So they remade it. It's not one that I watch on a regular basis, but I'm assuming it was pretty important considering, it was remade by Carpenter, but I don't know. I guess it belongs on the list. What do you think?
Yeah, that movie, like you said, is not one that I go back and like think about watching or anything, but I have seen it and I do remember like it has a really, really memorable scene towards the end where, I don't want to give it away for people that haven't seen it, but like needless to say, like they can read your mind and there's like one of the main characters is like envisioning like a brick wall, and they talk about this scene in the Bravo thing as well. He's envisioning like this brick wall, and then like it's chipping away, like you see the bricks kind of coming out of it as they're kind of like getting into his head. And by the time they get into his head, it's kind of like too late, just to say that. But like, um, the idea of these blonde kids with the glowing eyes and everything is kind of a cool look
Mhm.
and kind of something completely unique. So yeah, I've never liked Carpenter's version of that film. I like the original much, much better.
Yeah. That's what they were talking about. They're like the glowing eyes. That's what a lot of the talking heads were talking about when it came to this movie. So what are you saying? You guys nobody's a big fan of, you don't want to watch Christopher Reeve in a horror movie? Is that what you're saying to me? Um, Wes says Children of the Dam remake is filmed like a Hallmark.
It really kind of is.
Now, what was 92 on Shudder?
The Birds.
Ooh. Okay,
Yep.
so it moved up on the rankings too compared to this
Yep.
from this list. Okay. All right, 91 is an interesting one here. This is one that I've never seen this movie. Maybe you guys can help us out here. We were talking about it before the show and weren't sure, like, what this movie was, I guess, per se. And it's a movie called Shallow Grave, which, according to Bravo, is scarier than The Birds and Zombie and Creepshow and Chucky and all this stuff. So I'm not familiar with this movie, and I did a little research on it. There's two Shallow Graves. At first, we were like, was it this one from Vinegar Syndrome? But I'm like, there's no way that
No.
this thing made that list and went completely like disregarded when this came out, and it probably sat on Vinegar Syndrome's store for like $10 for years. But I guess it's the other one that Criterion had put out. I've never seen it, and to be honest, maybe it's one that I make sure to check out. Let me know if you guys think of that. Does that belong on this list? What is Shallow Grave? I think it's the Criterion Collection one. It came out in 94, I think it was.
Yeah, and this was Danny Boyle. You said this. This was his
Yeah.
first movie, I think. I've never seen it either, and honestly didn't have any idea it existed until this.
John said it was dope. Yeah. I guess I'll have to try to hunt it down. If for some reason I think that was the only one on this list that I had just never seen. Actually, no, there's another one I haven't seen on this list too, but we can talk about that as well. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I've never even heard of it. When
A lot of
they
people
talked
are
about
putting
this,
it over in the chat. I'll say that, but you're right. Like I've never seen it, never really like heard anything about it until now.
oh yeah, so Jim says it's a great film. Huh. Yeah. Shallow Grave. Criterion has it. Yeah, they have a Blu-ray out right now. Mayor said he saw it in a sneak preview in 94. He thinks he was the only person at the theater that loved it. Okay. So again, I like going back and doing these shows because if it can open my eyes to something that I'm not familiar with, that's always a win for me. And that's, like I said, in 2004, I made the same list as a kid, or 20 years ago now, finding out about a lot of these movies at the time and trying to collect them and check them out, considering I was like, well, if they're on this list, they must be great. So it's cool to kind of go in and be like, yeah, I never saw this, never heard of it, and I guess it's one to check out. Are you gonna check this thing out or what? You can add it to the list of 1,000 things we gotta watch.
Yeah, I've literally got like a 2-tier thing of movies here, so I'm probably not gonna be
Yeah.
yeah. But like, wouldn't it be funny if somebody saw that and then they like searched
Bought the
out
vinegar syndrome.
bought the video and they were like, God, this is awful. Shit. People are crazy.
How dare Bravo put this on the list?
Yeah.
Or the roles reverse when maybe that's why when they announced Shallow Grave, people were like, oh shit.
That's true. They probably completely thought it was that. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, Mel has it. She probably's never watched it. She showed it in a pickup video.
Listen.
Really? I mean, maybe she's seen it. I don't know, but I don't know why she's not in here telling us about it.
She's
I
lurking in the
guarantee
shadows.
Cape
Can't
Fear is probably on this list. I'm thinking that's another one that's probably somewhere on here.
Yeah.
But interesting. Yeah, I never heard about it. And that was number 91. What did Shudder have over on 91?
You're not going to believe this. And I remember us both talking about this when it was announced on the other show and just kind of being like, what? 91 on Shudder's list was Mulholland Drive, which is the David Lynch one. It's like, I've seen this movie. I mean, you've seen any David Lynch movie and you could basically argue that it's a horror film, but it's such an odd choice, man, to throw Mulholland Drive in there because it's really not like, it's not a traditional horror film. No. I don't really think any of his films are traditional horror films, like, or really any of his films are traditional films for that matter. But like, it's such a weird pick for me that I mean, it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong, but like,
yeah, like the scene that they showed when they Shudder was like that one, like when the thing was behind the dumpster or whatever, like that was like the scene. And I was kind of like, again, I think if I think of Lynch and I'm like, I have a feeling something like Blue Velvet might make this list. Like I could see that probably popping its head in somewhere. But Mulholland Drive,
actress and all that.
Yeah, like I'm surprised it was on the list. When I remember us saying that, I was kind of shocked that it did make that list. But yeah, I mean that's what's so interesting. Like, you know, I'm almost 1,000% positive Shallow Grave never made Shudder's list. Never was, because again, we would have talked about it.
No.
So it's funny to see the ones that didn't make the list. And this next one at 90 didn't make the list on Shudder either. And I've actually never seen this movie, but I heard a lot of people talk about this because it recently just got a 4K, I think, from Kino. And it's an oldie. So I have never, and I kept hearing people say, like, you got to get this, you got to buy this. And I was just like, an old black and white, nah, I'll get it eventually. And that was Night of the Hunter.
Crazy.
Now, I've never seen it, man, but I hear a lot of great things about it.
We just got a request to watch it.
She knows, see?
Yeah.
Skiller did.
So we just watched it for the first time, CK and I, and like we just got this request and I'd never seen it. I'd heard about it like my entire life, you know, somebody would always talk about that movie. And it's one of the few times when I was like genuinely uncomfortable watching a film because the guy, Robert Mitchum, did such an amazing job that like you feel uncomfortable that he's around children. And the subject matter of the film is basically that like he is trying to figure out where these two kids hid money. I think it's $10,000 that he wants to use. You know, he's a criminal, but he pretends like he's a preacher, basically. He's wanting to use to build a church. And so he's willing to do anything to them or to anybody around them to find out where this money is. And so you constantly just feel like that they're in jeopardy and like he could do anything to them at any time. And the way it's shot is crazy too. Like it's just got some of the best cinematography and best shots. Like you got to see it, man. Like there's no way you won't like that movie.
All right. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I don't know why it's passed me by for so long, but maybe with the idea of it getting a 4K gave it a little resurgence in popularity because people are seeing it out there now and whatnot. But I will definitely check it out because like you said, it's very rare that you watch a movie that passed you by for so long and we're like, holy shit, like that was really good. And I'm always looking for those. So will it be Shallow Grave? Will it be Night of the Hunter? I don't know, but I'll definitely add those to the list to check out for sure. But that was number 90 on the list. And what did we get over on the Shudder list at 90? I think we even talked about that.
Yeah, it was Child's Play.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, gang, we have 5 more to talk about on this first episode here. And again, we're rounding about the 90-minute mark here. So we'll probably be done pretty soon. We're going to move on to 89. And again, I think this list was where I heard about this movie for the first time, I think. And that was Alice, Sweet Alice, which is the slasher movie with Brooke Shields that everybody knows. And also, too, Alice, Sweet Alice was a hard movie to find on DVD. I remember that being a thing. Was that it was out there, but it was very rare, very hard to find. I think they might have re-released it later down the road, so more people could get their hands on it. But I remember once I heard about this movie, I think from this list probably, I was trying to locate it, and it was like hard. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And finally, I came across it used at a store, and I felt like I just struck gold. And I ended up loving this movie. But it's one of those movies I really haven't gone back and watched a lot. So I've probably only seen Alice, Sweet Alice maybe 3 times in my whole life. And I think it's fine. Thought it was really good when I saw it for the first time. But again, my taste has changed a lot over the years. What do you think of this one?
I think that I like this film so much because I believe it to be one of only a couple of American giallo films that you could genuinely kind of make an argument that this is a giallo that was, made over here. And I think the director's Alfred Soule or something like that, or Soleil. And I think that's what he was trying to do. And it's such a creepy movie, especially like the one
neighbor
dude,
and stuff,
the
guy,
neighbor who's like the pedophile. He's giving off the pedophile vibes the whole time. And it's just like, it's just so uncomfortable, like to watch that movie. And then there's the whole scene too with Brooke Shields and what happens with her. And that's like, for a movie that time period, it's kind of like crazy. But I really love that movie and still do to this day.
You know what? I'm going to probably have to go back and check it again. It's been many years. I have the Blu-ray from Arrow, and to be honest, I don't know if I've ever watched it to see what it looks like in HD, because this always had kind of that really grittiness to the quality of it and stuff like that. So it's probably been maybe, I don't know, 10 years since I've seen this. But I remember when I saw it for the first time, I really, really liked it. And I don't know if it was just the idea of it being really good, or that it was like, oh my God, I finally found this movie that I've been after for so long, and the hype was just there. But yeah, it made the list, and I guess we agree that it should be on here somewhere. It's probably in a good spot in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to put it on this list, I would put it in the 90s. Yeah, I wouldn't put it much higher than that.
So it was actually 89, but what did Shudder have for us at 89?
89 was, are you shitting me?
Uh-oh.
89 was American Werewolf in London.
It's way up there, huh?
Really? Like, I don't know, man. That to me is like one of the classic. Like, how many people just really don't like American Werewolf in London?
Not many. Not many.
It's such a hard thing to pull off, like that kind of movie, and he pulled it off amazingly.
And I'm curious, I don't remember if Howling made Shudder's list, but people always compare the two. So if it is, it shouldn't be that far away.
To me, Howling's like an exploitation film, and like American Werewolf in London is like almost like a Universal Monster updated film.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what kind of movie you like, I guess, like what kind of style you like more than anything.
Yeah, we're actually doing in October on the Rad Pack channel we're doing Howling versus Werewolf in London. That was a requested one that we're gonna do. And
good luck.
I was always an American Werewolf in London guy, always. But then over the last couple of years, I've been like, I don't know, I think I like Howling more.
Yeah, so, I mean, At
to
any
go
given
back and
time,
watch these two again to like really dissect each part of it, I'm kind of like, I am curious to see because they are in different ways both very, very good. And I'm curious to see which one I do prefer over the other one because they have different tones. But yeah, it'll be an interesting show.
yeah, I don't envy anybody trying to pick one of those two movies because they're just like you said, they're amazing in different ways.
But they're always categorized together. And I don't know if it had to do with the time frame, but it's always like, oh, Werewolf or Howling, the two best, or the same way things like Fright Night and Lost Boys, they're always kind of paired together.
Yep.
So and you have one side of the fence that's pro this and this, but I'm sure everybody likes them both, but sometimes when you're battling against each other, there's very pro this movie, fuck this other movie kind of thing. But yeah, it should be interesting talk. And that was what'd you say? That was number 89 on Shudder's list, was American Werewolf in London. We haven't seen this one yet here. I have a feeling this one's gonna be pretty low on the list. Like pretty high, I guess, on the list. As we get moving through this Shudder stuff. Through this Bravo list. And 88, interesting enough, seems to me like it should be a little bit higher too. And that's Bravo is putting at 88. Body Snatchers, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
I mean, I agree with that more than I do.
I mean,
more than I do putting American Werewolf at like 89. I really do. No, wait a minute. Which version of Invasion are we
that's
talking
what I'm trying to think. What was it? Was this the
original?
It was
the original, right? The Kevin McCarthy one.
I think it was the original. Yeah.
I don't think it was.
I think the remake is amazing. I think the Donald Sutherland one is.
I actually would have picked that one, but I guess if you're going with like, for creativity and influence on the genre, it would probably be the original.
Yeah.
But it's just like that's so subjective because like that time period is not a time period that I'm immensely like fond of when it comes to horror films, and I'm sure for other people like the 80s is not a time period they're fond of. So whatever.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm not fond of it. It's just not a period of time that I often go to. So therefore, I don't have, I've seen them, but it's not one that I hang around and dissect and try to find other movies like that. So I mean, like for me, I've seen Invasion Body Snatchers, but I've always, when I have to or I want to watch that, I always go to the Sutherland one.
I do too.
That's just me. But yeah, I think that of course this one should be on the list. Now, is the Sutherland one going to be on here somewhere else? I doubt it. I don't know if they'd ever do the two movies, but it probably deserves to be somewhere.
I think so. I mean, I think it deserves, but I think it deserves more so than the original. Mm-hmm. That's just me.
I agree. I think his acting and stuff in that movie, like some of those scenes where he just opens his mouth and points and stuff, like this is still pretty eerie. We're showing my brother that for the first time when he was like 20 and being like, "Oh yeah, that was kind of weird." Like you could tell it kind of bothered him a little bit. I was like, "What do you think of that?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that was weird."
It's fucking wicked pisser.
I was like, it was just weird. Like, yeah, weird. I was like, kind of scared you a little bit, didn't it? But yeah, that was 88. What do you got over on 88 in the Shutterland?
Us is 88. I like Us. I don't love Us, but what are you gonna do? I love Get Out. I think Get Out is like a classic. I think Us is okay. It borrows pretty heavily from a lot of doppelganger kind of movies. No.
I think people. I don't know what people's thoughts are on this, but I'm actually pretty pro Peele right now. I've always said that. I think he's 3 for 3 in my eyes. I think his next movie is going to be pretty damn important. It's either he's gonna go on to be a classic horror director, or he's gonna start getting looked at like he's like M. Night Shyamalan.
He's gonna go the Shyamalan route. Yeah.
You think this is gonna be like? Do you think he's gonna have a big bomb and then people are gonna kind of turn on it a little bit? Like
he can't make anything worse than like Lady in the Water or some shit like that, man.
Oh, I know that, but I'm saying like for Peele, like I feel like his 3 movies were very different, but I think to me they all were effective and worked for me. I thought Nope was great. I thought Us was good. I thought Get Out was great, and I just really think this next one is going to really be telling. Like, is he going to slam dunk it again? Or is it going to be like, yeah, it just didn't work this time. I think this next one's going to be a very interesting one for him.
Yeah.
To kind
I
of
mean,
see where he
let
goes
me
from
ask you a question about him too. I mean, do you
there.
think at this point with the films that he's made, do you think that he's solidified himself as like, if he didn't make anything else worth a shit,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he's like on par with like great horror film directors, or do you think he has more to prove at this
I
point?
think he has more to prove. I think he's on a good streak right now. I think it's very hard for somebody to come out of the gate and make 3 great movies. And I see a lot of people in here saying they don't like specific ones. I actually think that a lot of people don't like Us, which I'm surprised by that because I think it's really good as well. But I think that he really is. This next one is going to make it for him if he can do this and do it right and do something a little bit different. I think he will be solidified at that point. If not, I don't know. I don't know if because when you look at Shamalan, like he's kind of solidified, but I don't know. He's weird to me because he
I
still
swear to
makes
God.
movies that like I'm intrigued by. Like he's good at making trailers, kind of, right? But then when it gets to like the swerve or the ending, I think it's a disaster, right? Like I didn't see Trap, but I'll
Mhm.
tell you that I want to see it because I think that
Oh,
in the
yeah.
concept
Yeah.
looks like it could be good. Like when you
Nah,
look
it
at that
could
trailer, I'm
have
like,
been.
this looks good. Oh,
Could
so
have
you
been good.
saw it.
Oh yeah, it could have been good. It could have been a great movie. And by the way, Josh Hartnett is amazing in it. Like, I mean, like amazing. It's the classic Shyamalan kind of thing that happens by the end of the movie. You're just like, what the fuck is he doing? Here's the thing. I'm gonna make a horrible analogy, but I think this is true. I feel like that Shyamalan is kind of like Hogan. So nowadays everybody looks at him as kind of a joke, but he's so like entrenched and everybody like sees him as an icon that he kind of just can like still get a
He can kind of coast around and still be
post
like
on
when
that.
he's got a
Yeah.
movie coming up, people are like, oh, Shyamalan's back, you know.
If Hogan
Remember
comes
how
back.
over he was though at one point? They did a documentary where like people were like lining up outside his house to like get a glimpse of
Yeah.
him. Remember there was like that documentary that he did and stuff.
That he
And
yep.
it's wild because he was another one though. I mean, he was kind of 3 for 3, right? He had Unbreakable,
Yeah, he
Sixth
was
Sense, and
right out of
Signs.
the
Those were
gate.
his first 3, right?
Right out of the gate, he was 3 for 3. You're right. Yep.
And then that's where I think Village is what was the one. Village was the one that would have solidified him as an amazing and there was so much promise there. When I saw Village for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be so freaking killer. And then when they pulled the swerve out, I remember leaving that theater and be like, what? I was so pissed. And I hated Village for a long, long time. I hated it with a passion. But when I went back and watched it not too long ago and kind of understood what he was trying to do, I'm kind of like, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I once thought it was. It was really like one of my most hated movies of all time because I was so pissed at the theater
Yeah.
when that swerve happened because I was expecting like some of the gnarliest shit based on the trailer and all this stuff. And now I can look back and be like, okay, I can give Village a pass. But then we get to Lady in the Water, and it's like he still tries to play that game where you're like, what the hell's going on here? And now I'm like, I don't know if I can't really let it slide now. I was pissed again at the theater with that one.
Yeah, same. And and by the time he got to the last Airbender, you're just kind of like, shit, man. Like this is not going anywhere. And then The Happening
The Happening was the next one where you were kind of like, you see the trailer and you're like, okay, maybe he's back. This body's falling from the sky. This might be the one. And you go see it and you're like, this is worse than the last one. Like I don't know what it is. Like, is this a gimmick? Like, is he like the Corey Feldman of like directing? Like, what is his thing here?
When you watch movies like The Happening and even that other one, Old, there's parts of me that are like, is he just goofing on people at this point? Is he just like, purposely making bad Ed Wood style movies just to like be doing it? Like, if so, he's a genius on like an Andy Kaufman level where he's like seeing, breaking the fourth wall and just, seeing in the futures. But I don't think so. I just think he's making shitty movies and he just doesn't know any better.
I agree, but I don't understand like The Happening. Like the thing about The Happening that really just bothers me, like I can see like when you look at Lady in the Water, it was almost like a comic book come to life, like like he had a plan. And when you really break it down, I think he does like a documentary on the DVD of like he was showing you like how he looks at a comic book and kind of shows you how the movie is. And I can see like where his vision was. I don't think it worked for everybody. I don't think people caught on to that. They just thought he was being stupid. But I can kind of see where he was. But the happening, I really can't. Like, there's literally moments where the freaking boom mic is hanging down from the thing.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's acting like there's no, like, what is he like? This is almost a joke now. Like, like he's being an imbecile, and I'm like, I don't even understand like how this even passed through. Like
well,
the checks and stuff.
Somebody brought up a great point on a review I saw about that movie. It's like something that maybe M. Night didn't know is that Mark Wahlberg can only play Mark Wahlberg. He can only play like either a cop or like, you know, somebody from like, you know, the Bronx or Jersey or something like, or Boston or something like that. Like he can't deviate very far from that. He has no range.
Dude, in Fear, he was fantastic, right? Where's that guy?
Where's
that guy?
Was that like what year was that movie made though?
That was like 96.
He's got, you know, the syndrome where people forget how to act and they just kind of get into like one groove. Because by the time he's not, man, a science teacher. Does anybody believe that he's a science teacher that watches that movie? Like,
even his acting is like, hey, oh my god, like it was almost like he was like he didn't want to be there. He was like making fun of it to get, but that's what.
There's a scene. I always go back to it because it just fucking blows my mind. It's even in a movie where he's like, "Come on," like they're goofing off, and he's just like, "Come on, guys, take an interest in science." Like he literally says that.
And then what is Shamalan like? Cut, great job.
Yeah,
like, that's what I don't understand. Like I don't know where.
That's how you know it's a science teacher.
Right? But he always has good concepts, but he doesn't know where to go. Like Old was a good idea. Right? Old was a good idea, and there was some parts of the movie that I really liked. But I think when it comes down to like the big reveal or the twist, it's like he doesn't know what to do. But I did think like Split was good. I thought that was pretty decent of a movie.
Yeah,
I didn't see Glass, so I don't know. I thought
a lot of people shit on that movie. I never saw it, but yeah,
the one with the grandparents was pretty good actually.
See, a lot of people shit on that movie, but like I always liked that. Like I thought that was a pretty decent movie. And people point out like, you know, different things about like how it's so unbelievable that the kids couldn't have known that it was them and all this stuff. But like I mean, kind of got to suspend some belief about this kind of stuff. I thought it had a cool twist. I don't know about the spider walking grandma parts of it.
So he's an interesting one where it's like you said, he's almost grandfathered into being like a huge horror name, but like his films don't really back it up, I think. And that's where I'm afraid like where Peele's gonna kind of it's gonna be interesting for him. But I forgot we did a whole show, me, you, and Wes, about was it the ranking of Shamalan, I think.
Yeah.
I think we did a whole Shamalan ranking.
We did the Shamalan Ding Dong show, but yeah, I don't think anybody at this point is like they don't go into a Shamalan movie being like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I don't think they do anymore. I just think they're like hopeful. They're cautiously optimistic. They're like, maybe he can get back to being that guy, and he never does. But like, there's still hope out there.
But they always say that in the trailer too, like he's back. Like this is like they try to like almost bring it back. Like like he's back. Like he also did that other one. Didn't he do the other one? I haven't seen it. The one with the Batista, where the trailer looked good, but then I heard it was like just a big sloppy mess.
Knock on the Cabin.
Yeah, like once you started to see where things were unraveling, it became like terrible. But the trailer looked like it kind of had promise.
The sad part about that movie to me was like it needed a twist and didn't have one. It needed like something at the end where you would like, you know, where it would come together, and it just did, and it just kind of ended, and you're like, well, but that's the problem. People bitch about it when he puts twists in there, and then I'm bitching about him not putting a twist in there. It's like I don't know what he really can do at this point.
Now, do these movies that he does, do they flop? Or they just get bad reviews? Like, does he like, damn, another one didn't work? Like, I mean, like, what is going through his head where everything gets shit on every time he?
That's a good question. I'd like to, if people on here can like look it up, like the last couple of movies he's made, like what they made versus the budget. Like, I'm curious if they did flop or if they actually made any money. Like, I think Cabin made money. I think
just like, shucks. I'll try again next time. Like, I mean, like, what is his mindset?
Dude, you can't keep that guy down. Like, I'll say that for you. Like, he's not a quitter.
Oh, Rambo says he funds his own movies. So basically, what is he just doing? Just he's just got all that 6 cents money still hanging around.
Yeah, he must.
It was funny. But yeah, I don't know how the hell we got on a rampage about him, but it's always kind of good talking about the Shamalan there. Oh, it's because we were seeing what Peele's next move is going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But 87, we're on 87. We got a couple left, and we're talking about this is one that I'm like, why are we up at 87? And that's the original Black Christmas. To me, this deserves to be top 20.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. I mean, people always talk. I've said this forever. They always talk about how Halloween influenced, the genre. To me, I think Black Christmas influenced the genre way more, but it's just people don't realize it. Or it didn't get the accolades that Halloween did. But you'll never, ever convince me that John Carpenter did not model parts of that movie after Black Christmas, because I know he did. I mean, I just know it. Like, we interviewed him. He said he didn't. He knew Bob Clark, like, around that time. Like, they knew each other. They were friends. There's no way, man. There's just no way.
I'm going to say this, though, on record, is that Black Christmas is still a movie that makes me feel uneasy, even now.
Yeah.
Watching it. And, you've seen it so many times and still watch this movie and be like, every time that phone rings and he's on the other end, it's uneasy. And I think it's super effective. And I think this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the scariest horror movies ever made.
Well, Axel brings up a good point. Like, are we ranking the movies, or are we ranking like certain scenes? Well, you never know, because sometimes they just rank the movie and sometimes they rank like certain scenes. Either way, I would rank this movie higher. For the bag scene, for the call scene, you can choose
the
either
eyeball.
one.
Even when they show him for the first time, whatever. Yeah, I agree. And the thing is that with these lists, that's the thing. We don't really know the criteria because it's called movie moments. But then when they're talking about the movie, they don't explain a specific moment. They explain the movie. So it is a tricky situation because we're not really sure what's the criteria that these are making this. It's called movie moments, but there's not a lot of times they're even talking about a specific moment of a movie, which I think is what kind of throws some of these lists off. But yeah, that was 87. And again, I just think that was way too high for a movie like this. I don't know where it fell on Shudder's list. I don't remember. I don't know if you see that there, but if you do, let me know. And then whatever 87 was.
Where it fell on Shudder's list?
Yeah.
It's got to be on here. Yeah, it's number 57.
So it moved way up.
Yeah, which is still too low in my opinion, but yeah.
What was 87 on their list?
The Witch.
Okay.
The Witch. Yeah.
Again, it deserves to be on this list. At 87, I could see it a little bit higher, but I mean, it deserves to be recognized for sure.
I agree. I'm okay with where it's at. Like, seems okay to me. It's a fascinating movie. It's amazing that it even got made the way that it did.
100%. This is an interesting one as well. 86. We have two more to talk about tonight. And this is Wizard of Oz at 86. Now, again, going back to... You have frozen, by the way, UB.
Son of a bitch, Bulls.
We made it pretty close.
We almost made it.
You look pretty pissed right now, though.
You
look angry.
Hold on, I'll be back.
All right, we'll talk about the Wizard of Oz. Let's get UB out of here because he's freaking me out. He's scaring me. He belongs on the list. All right, Wizard of Oz is at number 86. Now, again, I understand it's iconic. I again understand that when this came out, I'm sure it was pretty freaky. The witch, the flying monkeys. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. Like, obviously it's not a horror movie. We know that. But again, we don't know what this list, because it says scariest movie moments. It doesn't say scariest horror movies. It doesn't say horror movies, right? So what do you guys think? Obviously, it's a classic with some creepy moments in it, for sure. A lot of people aren't happy with this. They're saying it's a filler. Now, I'm going to tell you this. After doing Shudder's list and Bravo's list, there is talks about making our own list. I think it's going to be a huge task.
Yeah.
But it's something we've talked about that we could possibly maybe do for next October.
I'm curious, like, why we got all these people in here? Like, I mean, is that something that y'all would want to see? Like us to do like a top 100 kind of list? It'd be crazy.
Maybe do
It'd
it.
be crazy to try to figure that out, by the way, between the three.
Dude. Yeah, that would be a very big undertaking. Now, would it be like top 100 horror movies, top 100 scariest movies? Like, I don't know if movie moments. I don't know. Like, I think we should go by the movie instead of the moment, but yeah, let me know if that is something you guys want to see, because it will take us a while to compile this thing up for sure. And then have to like go through each thing and then make decisions on, I mean, we're not talking about 20 movies here. 100 is a hard list to make.
I think,
when you get to the 70s, you're just starting to throw shit in there. I mean,
yeah. I think that in terms of Wizard of Oz, though, like, I don't think one single movie has scared more kids than that movie. Like,
that is true.
Just a whole generation and generation after generation of kids, just from like a couple of scenes.
Blu-ray Attic, you've never seen it? Oh, you gotta.
I can't believe anybody's never seen that movie. Like, you know what I mean? It just seems like it was, you know, it came on like constant, but yeah.
Slash said, you guys ever seen a movie called The Sitter, which is about babysitter being harassed by a maniac on the phone? I mean, I don't know. It's got to be old because it sounds like Stranger Calls. Yeah, people are saying they actually saying, people are saying we should make our own list. People are saying that they think it does deserve to be on the list. Huck, what's up, buddy? He said those monkeys ripped the scarecrow apart was traumatic as a kid. I can see kids, yeah, for sure. It's just uneasy. You know, it's an uneasy movie for a little kid. It would have to be 100 that we'd have to work on together.
Yeah.
Instead of having our own individual lists.
We'd have to figure out a system to vote on them too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there'd have to be some criteria or something that we're trying to like do these on.
We should make our list by Halloween. You get 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What movie had the boom mic? The Happening. The Happening, the boom mic's hanging down a couple times during that movie. 30? We could do a 30 list easy.
Yeah, 30 for 30. But I mean, you really want to go like all out. You're going to do 100.
There'll be no criteria. What's the criteria? Don't know. We just threw it together. Then we can talk about the movies that like we used to like that we don't really like that much anymore. Oh, you're saying you think Roger Rabbit should be on the list, and he talked just like that. Yeah, that did freak me out as a kid. Yeah.
Anything from
be good people if we make our list. I hope so. We want to make sure we preface that.
Yeah,
for sure.
No matter what that we pick, we're still good people. We just want you to know that.
You could talk about Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't speak of that, please. No more.
I don't think that would be on your list for some reason.
You're just gonna want to put Cat 9 movies on the whole list. I'm like, no.
You mean like Cat 3 movies?
Oh, that's what fucking called. Cat 3 movies. Yeah, I've seen one. What's the one I watched?
Oh, you watched Ebola Syndrome.
Yeah, it's the only one I've ever seen.
Dude, I've seen some wild shit since then. Good Lord, man. Like, you go down that rabbit hole, that's something you don't want to go down. I'll just tell you.
I'm not putting Salo on the list.
No.
What's the other one? Serbian film? I've never seen that either.
Yeah, I'll never watch that movie. That's one I know I'll never watch.
Oh, you've never seen it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, wow. Right. Dude, you know what's funny? Do I have that or I had it? I have or have Headless, to be honest with you. There's a couple of movies that came out around the time of like when Murder Set Pieces came out that people were trying to jump on that hype train, and I ended up buying a bunch of them. and I think I've like watched them like once. Got some on Blue, some DVD, but like Headless was one of those movies that I remember picking up. We see The Lady in White. I would like that. Yeah, I don't want to go down the road of that. But that was Wizard of Oz at 86, which again, I can't not agree with it. It's fine, I guess. It's classic. What was 86 where you were? I mean, I know for a fact we didn't see Wizard of Oz on Shudder's list. That's damn sure.
86 on Shudder's list was Lucio Fulci's Zombie.
Okay, so again, a lot of these movies that we're seeing here are moving up these rankings. But there's a couple of them that we know aren't going to make that list. And the last one on the list for today to end this first episode is number 85, and it's Blood and Black Lace, which again is fine. It's not one of those movies I've watched a lot. I've seen about probably twice in my whole life. But I don't know. If it doesn't stand out to me.
If you like giallo films, most people will tell you that that's the birth of like the modern giallo. There was one film he did that Bava did before that, but this one is kind of the one. Blood and Black Lace is kind of the one that set the template for those movies. So I've only seen it. Sadly, man, I've only seen it like one time, and it wasn't really like impressive to me at the time, but I wasn't really looking at it in that way. I was just watching it back in the day when we were doing, the original show, but I wasn't looking at it through the lens of like it's, giallo kind of history and things like that too. So I bought the Arrow version. I'm going to watch it again.
Okay, I was just going to ask who has that, because I have Blood and Lace from Scream Factory, but Blood and Black Lace I have on DVD. I don't have any upgraded version of that.
This is the Arrow version that just came out.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah, it came out not too long ago. I would say.
All right, I'm going to grab that and rewatch that. Okay,
maybe a little bit longer than that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely rewatch that. I mean, it's well deserved to rewatch. I'm trying to think I don't even know what edition I have, but it's definitely, I don't have anything besides a DVD of that movie. But so it'll be a good reason for me to rewatch it when I get that edition. Arrow always does a great job, but I see people talking in here about Mayor. I do have that movie as well. Found, that was another one of those movies that came out around that time. I do have that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird shit around that time. But yeah, what is there? Do they have like an exclusive?
I have the art version of Blood and Black Lace 4K. Got me. The Arrow is notorious for doing those art versions like that. They did one for Deep Red too. So probably, yeah.
All right, I will probably pick that up tonight. But that was 85. What's 85 on Shudder's list?
85 on Shudder's list is The Changeling.
It's a good one. That's probably on this list further down the road, I'm thinking. I would think it would have to be.
Yeah. I love that movie, man. Yeah, that's just such a classic. Like so many films rip that off that people don't even know. Like pretty much James Bond has made like an entire career on the back of that movie, really. But I mean, well, he made Saw, so
I say I have a client and he's always doing like a workout also, and I'll go, Joseph. Because that's his name. So it's like I'll just do it and be like, what are you doing?
He has no idea.
He's in the middle of a set and he's like about to do it. And I'm like, come on, Joseph. I always do that. But yeah, guys, this was episode 1 of our 7-part series on the Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moment list from 2004, 20 years ago from October of this year. So definitely cool to go back in time, talk about these movies. I'll do a quick rundown really quick. Number 100, we had 28 Days Later. Number 99, Creepshow. Number 98, Zombie. Number 97, Cat People. 96, The Birds. 95, Jurassic Park. 94, Pacific Heights. 93, Child's Play. 92, Village of the Damned. 91, Shallow Grave. 90, Night of the Hunter. 89, Alice, Sweet Alice. 88, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. 87, Black Christmas, 86, The Wizard of Oz, 85, Blood and Black Lace. And that gives us our first 15 movies of this list. Man, it was cool to go through these. This is basically how the show will kind of be structured going forward. It's going to be 15 movies, and I think on the last week, it's going to be the top 10. So that's going to give us, I think, our 7 weeks worth of stuff. And this is going to be on Sunday nights, more or less.
Yeah.
This was just a random one because I had to postpone it due to work. But yeah, so you'll see us again this Sunday night, 10 p.m. We're going to be doing the next list, which is going to be from like 84 to 70. And
yeah, I always look forward to watching these because I'm going into this cold. I don't look up any of this stuff. I just watch it like as we do them, right? So like now I'll go back and watch those 15, and like it's just cool to see like who they got on there. Who are the talking heads at that
We've
time?
got to make more notes about the people that randomly show up because again, we said this when you had like Ryder Strong, you had Eli Roth a lot. You know, we're still looking for Jeff Katz. We haven't seen him yet. You know, you had the Club Dread cast in there. There's a few females, I think maybe from Cabin Fever or something like that. But yeah, I'm curious to kind of see who they have as the talking heads because the people that we get now, I feel like the usual suspects that we get nowadays always.
Well, it's funny because one of the notes that I made under zombie when it came up was Eli Roth is so annoying and hyped up, bro. Like he was just so like animated and just like
he's one of the guys. He's been there since day one. He loves this shit. That's why he's gonna trust trust us. It's interesting that you say that, Jackson Jack, because I own everything except Night of the Hunter and Shallow Grave. Those are the only 2 movies that we talked about tonight that I don't own.
I don't own Shallow Grave, Pacific Heights, or Night of the Hunter.
Oh, so you didn't get that when you guys reviewed it, you just watched it.
No, I just watched it on a completely legal streaming service.
So Night of the Hunter just came out, I think, on 4K from Kino. So you know how Kino works. You can, for a movie that you said is really good, I mean, that's a definite, when Kino has the next sale, I'm going to pop that thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like the next time they have one of their sales, they're going to be the first one that I'll buy. Rambo was asking about what we'll be doing on Friday. Mark only has internet on his phone now, so I don't think he can do the show on Friday. Well, fuck. That kind of puts a damper in our plan.
What is going on with that guy? He's got big money. What do you mean he's got internet on his phone? Is he dealing with weather or something?
I don't know, man. First I'd heard about it. I guess we'll have to do something else other than what we had planned. Like we did a really cool show, which was like just ranking our top 5 movies from like each year. First part of the 80s from 80 to 85. Then we're going to do like 86 to 89. But like, I guess we're not going to be doing that. So we'll just do some sort of like AMA or AMA. Yeah. I guess ask us anything rather than ask me anything.
Oh, you're saying get the Criterion Night of the Hunter over the Kino one. Well, I could do that because
yeah.
I will. I need to get Shallow Grave too. And that's another Criterion. So next time there's a sale, I'll do the buy one, get one half, whatever the hell they do. All right. Well, yeah, it's tough because Mark lives in like the woods in like this killer house with like an outdoor jacuzzi. So I can understand it takes a while for people to get over there to fix this shit. So, but hopefully Mark, it gets fixed soon, man. But guys, this was episode 1 of the Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments list. UB, anything you want to promote for the week?
The only thing I will say is tomorrow coming up. We don't have any shows planned or anything like that I know of, but tomorrow, we are releasing a review that I did of Red to Kill, which is in my top 3 most insane, most disturbing Cat 3 films ever. So if anybody has any interest in that review, that'll be tomorrow night. That's going to be premiering. So yeah, it just came out, just a new Blu-ray release. So yeah, check that out.
Nice, man. So yeah, and then I've got this week, I have the return of Rad Company on Thursday, where I'm going to have a special guest. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Purple Stuff podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts out there. It's been for a long time. And one of the co-hosts, Jay, from over at Sludge Central, who's been I mean, man, this guy's been in the game for a long, long time. Not on YouTube, but he's done some YouTube stuff. But just he was big into blogging and all this stuff as a podcast. So it's gonna be cool to get him on the show and kind of pick his brain on some stuff. So if anybody's familiar with those guys, you definitely want to go check that out because they don't do a lot of interviews. He doesn't do a lot of stuff, so it'll be cool to have him on the show. So that's what's coming up on Thursday, and then we'll be back here on Sunday. So, guys, until then, this is Garrett, Born2BeRad, and like always, stay rad.
Stay dead.
I'd like to tell people, thumbs up the video, Uncle Bill.
Would you?
Yes. Thumbs it up with violence and fury, and just love everything about it.
You hit the heart button, then you hit the ass button, then you hit the go fuck yourself button. Follow that up with the I don't give a shit button.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last House on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
We have a literal jukebox full of songs and thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So deadpitonpatreon.com. Join today. Tiers started